Hi class, welcome to week 4. In this week you guys are going to be working with sources and beginning your research papers and working with source evaluations. You have 3 of those due for me this week, but after that point, like I state in my other video, then you're able to use other methods that work better for you. For instance, note cards works best for me, so I prefer a stack of note cards, but some of my students found out that PowerPoint slides works well. Other ones, a Word document works well. And so I wanted to kind of break down the research process for you in this video and show you what I do when I'm doing my own research. So for the last probably 6 to 9 months I've been working on a research for a book on human trafficking. And so what I like to do whenever I'm researching is to break down my information into different color categories. So for instance, in this instance, I have pink for the victims of human trafficking. I have green for the traffickers themselves because it helps me remember because they make money off of it. And then I just have the orange for general information. So ones that didn't fit into those 2 categories went on my orange cards. Then I have my yellow note cards that have my autobiography, my bibliographic information on, so my works cited information on. So as you can see, this one, I already have it written out in MLA format. And that's the first thing I do before I even read a source. I go ahead and write out the works cited entry in MLA format on whichever form I'm using, and I like just note cards, and I like to use a different color so it doesn't get mixed up with my other notes. And I go ahead and do that because several times in college I would find a great information on a website or an article, but I would read it online, and I wouldn't go ahead and print it off. And then later, when I was researching my paper, I didn't have the works cited information. I had my note cards with the information on it, but I didn't have my works cited information, and so I had to trash and get rid of all the information from that source just because I hadn't written down the works cited information to begin with. So now that is the first thing I do whenever I'm looking at a source, is I write down my works cited information before I start anything else. Next, what I do is as I read through the text, I make notes on my note cards. I write in the text. I like to print out all the articles I use. I write it, I highlight it. In this book, you can see where I use the same color of tabs as I did on the note cards. So if I need to find the information quickly, I knew exactly what type of information was there and where it was. And then on my note cards, just like I tell you guys to, I write down the same information. So here you have my source. I have P for paraphrase, so I use F for facts, Q for quote, P for paraphrase, so I know exactly what type of information is on the card and how I need to cite it in my paper. And then I have the page number. Sometimes this is page numbers. And then I have some information that's all the similar information. I don't have, if I'm switching different types of information, I go get another card. I make sure I keep all the same type of information on that card. So if it's talking about victims and how they are recruited, like this note card is, I keep only recruitment information on that card and nothing else. And that way it helps to simplify the process when I'm writing my paper later. Then when I'm writing my paper later, what I do is go through all my research and review it. And since it's on note cards, I'm not really needing to flip through books or articles or anything like that. I can just go ahead and look at my note cards. And so once I go through my note cards, I pull out only the ones that I need for the actual paper. A lot of the information you're going to be doing extra research beyond what you need for the paper, and so you're going to might have leftover information, and that's fine. Don't feel like you need to include all the research you did on your argument paper. Only include the information that is actually relevant to your paper and moves your paper forward. Like my professors told me, all the additional information will show through itself by your the way you're talking and the way you're writing. You don't need to include all of it. And so, for instance, I have a stack of cards several inches thick here, though some of them are still blank. Let me see if I can show you. So probably a quarter of those are still blank. But I need to write an article a few weeks ago, and so I went through all my cards and pulled out just the ones I needed for that article. As I went through it, I organized my cards into different paragraphs. So I had one on the human trafficking victims. I had one on the human trafficking, the traffickers themselves. I had one on the people who actually make the industry go and are profiting from this, or actually buying buying the slaves. And I had an introductory paragraph on the information. And so as I separated it into the different paragraphs, I like to kind of just seesaw my cards. I can kind of show you like this, so that as I write, each of the paragraphs is going a different direction. And so it's just easier to keep them all together and not lose anything. And so I have one paragraph, I stack them one paragraph this way, one paragraph that way, and it makes them a lot easier. Then I organize the information according to the paragraphs themselves. So I kind of say, okay, I want this to come first in that paragraph, this to come second, that to come last and close it, and to transition to my next ideas. Then whenever I have to sit down and write the paper, all I really need is to write my introduction, and I might have some note cards for that too, and to just flip over note cards and write my paragraph. As I write, I might find some information works, some of it no longer works, and I might just toss it out and put it back in my other note card stack. But really, I'm just flipping over cards. I'm connecting my ideas together with my own words and showing how they support my argument. And when I get to the end of the paragraph, I'm going to link all the information back to my thesis statement and show how all this information I just gave you in that paragraph supports my thesis, transition to my next paragraph ideas, and then I'm going to look at those cards and flip through them and write that paragraph. That whole process of going back through my research and writing my first draft of the article took maybe 2 to 3 hours for me on a Sunday afternoon. Since I've been doing this to 10 or 15 years, it probably will take you 4 to 6 hours instead, so at least double my time on that. It may not if you've been writing research papers a long time, but if you're new to this, expect it to take you much longer. I hope this gives you an idea of how I break down the research process, and that this is something you're going to use past college. Even if you're doing different types of writing, maybe you have to do research for a proposal or something, this is information you can take with you past college. I like to use old-fashioned note cards, but you don't have to do that yourself. You can find another method that works well for you. But I hope this helps you, and let me know if you have any questions as you work on your assignments this week. Have a good week.